my name's Ollie. I run an Instagram account called OT Cooks and Eats, and I'm delighted to be here today with Pear Productions. I know Zoe through having worked with her previously, but in a different capacity to Pear, but obviously learned about the production company and was really keen to kind of get involved when I saw this Cook at Home series. So thought I would share a recipe of mine today. I run cookery classes. As I say, I've got an Instagram account, so wanted to really kind of seize the opportunity to get involved with this lovely initiative during lockdown. Today we are going to be making some crostini, so a kind of traditional Italian dish. I've given it a kind of North African twist, if you like. I'm using some harissa to go with the red onions on top. Personally, I love cooking food from all around the world. I'm British myself, but really enjoy exploring different cuisines. So wanted to try and reflect, I guess, my style of cooking with the recipe that we're doing today. So without further ado, I will show you the ingredients. So for the ingredients for this one, pretty simple, but hopefully a couple of tips and tricks to help make them really, really tasty. So we're going to make a harissa red onion jam. So obviously you need some red onions and some harissa paste. This is a lovely kind of, as I say, North African paste, kind of slightly smoky, slightly earthy and a little bit spicy as well. We're also going to cook those with a little bit of brown sugar and some red wine vinegar to help really accentuate those delicious natural sugars within the onions themselves. So that's going to be the kind of red onion jam. I'm also going to make a salsa verde, so using some parsley and some coriander, as well as some lemon and some garlic. We are also going to crumble on a little bit of feta on the top as well, and then finally we're going to serve it on some sourdough. So you can use any type of bread for this, but we have I'm at home at the moment, and so hence why there's a tiny little bit of sourdough left. But we're going to chop that up, crisp it to make it nice sort of toast, and then we're going to top it with, as I say, the jam, the verde salsa, and the feta as well. So I will show you how to make it. Okay, so we're going to get started with our red onions. So the way I like to prepare these is to take the top off like that, and then using that flat side, putting it down and going directly through the root, in the middle of the root there. So keeping a little bit of the root on each half of the onion, as you can see, and I will explain why in a moment. You then want to peel off the outer layers of skin that are no good for cooking. And then for this one, we're just going to slice it quite thinly, because as I say, we're going to kind of cook this down for a long time. So again, the root sort of holds it all together there. And just using kind of the claw technique, so knuckle on the outside, just go along, slice those relatively thinly like that. It doesn't matter if they're not absolutely perfectly even. As I say, we're going to kind of cook these down for a long time, turn them into almost like a kind of chutney or jam to spread on top of the toast. But there you can see kind of relatively even half moons of onions. And you want to repeat that with maybe 3-4 onions, depending on how much kind of harissa jam you want to make. Okay, so I've chopped up a couple of cloves of garlic there, and I've finished the red onions now. So they're going to go into a pan. We want that on kind of a medium-low heat. What we want to do is to sweat these down rather than to cause them to burn or kind of take on too much colour. You can add the garlic in at this stage as well. Ordinarily, I'd say add the garlic in a little bit later, but because we're cooking this kind of low and slow, we're going to avoid the risk of it burning. And when I say low and slow, we're going to be using a lid. So what we want to do is essentially, as I say, get the natural sugars out of the red onions, and the way we can do that is by kind of helping it out a little bit. So I'm going to add in a little bit of brown sugar, again just to kind of amplify that sweetness. Doesn't need very much, maybe kind of a couple of teaspoons, beg your pardon. Also, I'm going to go with a little bit of red wine vinegar. Any vinegar would be fine, white wine would be okay, but red wine's best. And again, doesn't need a sort of exact measurement, but maybe 2-3 tablespoons, something like that. You can always add a little bit more in, so I'd recommend kind of being cautious at this stage. And then we can go in with our harissa as well. So this is where you want to be quite generous. So that's a really heaped teaspoon there, and I'm probably going to go for maybe 2 of those, and a little bit of that lovely oil as well. Again, we can add a little bit more of this later on if we need to. And then what we're going to do now is go in with a nice big pinch of salt. That obviously gives it a little bit of flavour, but also kind of naturally allows the water to escape from the onions, and we can give it a little season up with some black pepper here as well. And again, I recommend kind of starting with a bit more cautious at the start, because as you say, you can always add a little bit more in if you need to. The smell already is delicious. You'll have to try it in order to experience it. But you just want to kind of mix that all together. You can see the colour there of that harissa just kind of stains the red onion. Really, really nice. And that is now going to cook for quite a long time. You can let that go sort of anywhere between 20 minutes to 40 minutes, I guess. You really want to cook that down. As I say, we're almost going for kind of like a jam-like consistency. So yeah, keep an eye on it, get the lid on. You can add a touch of water in between if you need to. Kind of let it steam, let it cook. Check on it in about 30 to 40 minutes. So we'll leave that going and I will show you how to make the salsa verde. Okay, so we are now going to turn our attention to the salsa verde. I like to do this with a mixture of coriander and parsley. A couple of other things that you can add just to kind of elevate the flavour. So I really like adding lemon zest and juice because you get two slightly different kind of lemony flavours from each one. A bit of green chilli as well, just to kind of bring a slight kind of heat element there. And then really does benefit from some good seasoning, so salt, pepper and a lot of olive oil just to kind of thin it out. So I will show you how to prepare those now. So with the coriander and parsley, you'll notice they've got these stalks here and then the leaves. A lot of people throw the stalks away. I personally love using them. I think they have almost a stronger flavour of that herb than the leaves do. So the key really is just to make sure they're very finely chopped. They're not ever so nice to have kind of texturally. So if you can, buy a bunch where you can get all of the ends lined up, and then you just want to take the kind of particularly woody bits away, and then you're left with the stalk. So you just want to very finely, if I can get you to come in, get you very finely to chop those, so you can see they're very, very small, and that's absolutely fine. You can keep doing that with the stalks, and then when you start kind of coming into the leaves, that's absolutely fine. Keep doing it nice and fine, and then once you get out of the stalks and you're kind of into the leaves, you can be a bit less kind of fine and a bit more coarse with the chopping. So you get two almost kind of different textures there. They're very, very fine stalks, and then the slightly sort of more chunky rustic leaves. You can do the same with the parsley as well. And then really it's up to you in terms of your kind of preference in terms of how thick you want it to be. So if you want the salsa to be slightly chunkier, you can leave the leaves a bit more rustic. If you want it really nice and fine, you can chop them up. You can even stick this in a food processor as well to save a little bit of time. I personally like doing it like this, it's a little bit more rustic. As I say, chop the herbs up and then I'll show you how to chop the chilli and do the lemon as well. Okay, so that's the herbs prep there. You can see from that big stack of herbs on the board, it only comes out to that much in the bowl, so you might need a little bit more than you expect. And you can hopefully see the kind of smaller chopped bits in amongst some of the larger leaves as well, which is exactly how I like it. So now we're going to turn our attention to the chilli. Personally, I'm going to leave the seeds out, but if you want to, you can leave the seeds in, no problem. I'll show you how to do that. You want to kind of chop the chilli, if I can find the right bit. Chop the chilli lengthways. So I've just taken the top off there. You can see I'm kind of taking it down the middle like that. So you've got two bits there, and then you can use the knife just to kind of run along where the white pith is. A kind of common misconception about the heat in chilies, everyone thinks it's the seeds that are really spicy. They are spicy, but it's actually this kind of pith that's the kind of where the real heat lies. So to take the pith out of the chili along with those seeds, you can leave a little bit in if you want a little bit of spice. We just want to kind of very finely dice these. So I'm going to do 1/2. You can see I've kind of chopped those into thin kind of matchsticks, if you like, or julienne if you want to be fancy. And then you want to twist those and essentially do the same thing the other way. So hopefully you can see there, it's a very kind of fine dice of the chilies. And just finish those off. If you get to this stage and they're not all quite the same size, that's absolutely fine. You can just do a quick kind of cross chop, so get them all in the middle, and then with the tip of the knife on the board and your non-chopping hand on top, you can just rattle through them. Again, you just want these to be nice and fine. You don't want kind of a big chunk of chili in amongst the salsa verdes. And then you can see they're much more kind of uniform in size. Rattle through them, and then again, if you just want half a chili, that's fine. If you want the whole chili, then obviously repeat with the other side, and then it's just the lemon to go after that. We are now going to do the lemons, which is kind of the last bit of the salsa. I always really like using both the zest and the juice of lemons. So the way to do that is to get a kind of microplane grater like this, if you have one, or if not, just the kind of finest setting on a box grater will work absolutely fine. And you just want to kind of essentially take the skin off the lemon without going too far into the rind. So you can see there, that kind of white bit is where you want to stop. That's where it starts to get bitter. You lose some of that fragrance. But basically, you want to do that with, I'm probably going to go for both these lemons, I think, certainly the zest of both, and then add as much lemon juice as you'd like in order to get that kind of desired consistency and flavour. So I'll just finish this one off here. You can see, like, it doesn't matter if you miss a few bits, but you get kind of essentially free flavour there. So the lemon zest can go in, as can the juice. And if you have a juicer, then that's absolutely fine. Just an easy trick is to kind of use your hands to catch any pips. So as soon as I do that now, I bet this one won't have any. But it just kind of catches any pips or any excess things that you don't want in there and lets the juice run through. So that's the lemon dealt with, and in with the zest as well. And that's just going to really kind of lift the salsa, I think. You know, you want the bright herbaceous flavours to really come through, and the lemon just really helps to do that. So repeat with as much lemon zest and juice as you want, and then you can add some salt, pepper, and a pretty healthy amount of olive oil, because you want this to almost kind of drizzle on top. And I will show you the final product. Okay, so that's the salsa verde done. You can see there, that's the kind of texture and consistency that we're going for. We want it to be able to kind of spoon on top of the crostini. Really important to taste your salsa for seasoning as well. So I added in quite a lot more salt and pepper, and even a little bit of garlic as well. Yeah, give it a little taste to see kind of what suits you. All that's left to do now is just chop up the bread. So you just want to kind of slice that into relatively thick slices like that. It's kind of how big you want them to be, really. So I want these probably to be kind of bite size, I guess. So probably chop that into to 3 like that. And then we're going to toast these and kind of rub them with a little bit of garlic before we do that. But I will show you the kind of final assembly. Okay, so we are now at the final assembly point. So we've got our bread that's just been toasted up and cut up into these small pieces. One thing that I really like to do, is a really good trick, is just to take a kind of clove of garlic, chop the end off like that, and just give the side a little bit of a rub. Doesn't need to be loads, but you will be amazed at the difference that that tiny little thing makes. So do that with your bread, and then you want to get and a small spoonful of our red onion jam. You can see how much those onions have kind of cooked down, softened. Again, I've just kind of tasted and adjusted that for seasoning, but it's pretty much spreadable. A little bit of our salsa verde on top, just to kind of contrast that rich onion flavour. Gonna crumble over a little bit of the feta, very much, but just a little bit on top like that. And then I've also just toasted up a couple of seeds here. You can use whichever seeds you like. I've gone for pumpkin seeds and sunflower seeds. So just a couple of those on top. And then you just want to rinse and repeat for the remaining pieces of bread, and I will show you what it all looks like at the end. That's the final plated product. So I've got the jam on top of that lovely garlic rubbed bread, a little bit of the salsa verde, some feta, and topped with some of those lovely toasted seeds as well. But that's it. That is my harissa red onion crostini. I really hope you've enjoyed watching it today. And it would be fantastic if you could give us a follow at OT Cooks and Eats on Instagram. As I say, I do lots of delicious recipes and food for you all, and keep on supporting Prickly Pear as well. They're doing some amazing things, particularly with this series during lockdown. So yeah, take care everyone and stay safe. Bye bye.